Hey folks, Professor Johnson here. We're at week 3. Yippee. All right, so we're at week 3. We are moving on to the next part 2 of the book. We're going to talk about, this week we're going to cover 3 chapters again. We're going to talk about display locations and design methods, right? So that is part 2 of the book. So we're going to be covering part 2 for the next couple of weeks. So this week we are going to be talking about the exterior of the store, display window construction, and store interiors. So each chapter is a tab of the lecture. So we'll start off with exterior store display and why it's so important. On average, you just have a handful of seconds to get people to walk past and come in. So the exterior of the store and the windows play a key role in getting folks into the store. And sometimes you've walked in the store just because what they had in the window was awesome, and then you got in there like, yeah, no. Or you got there like, yeah. So that's what we're going to talk about. And then we're going to finish up with interior store displays. Okay. So when you get over to the lecture, we're also going to, actually, before we even talk about chapter 6, 7, and 8, I just talk about elements of great retail design. And they tie in specifically into these 3 chapters we're going to cover this week, but we're going to talk about these again because some of these elements are going to pop back up. Okay, so we're going to talk about that. When we talk about the exterior of the store, we'll talk about why it's so important and the considerations that retailers and visual merchandisers have to take into account when they're looking at the exterior of the store. We get to window display. That is it's a good chunk because the windows is really where the visual merchandisers get to shine. So that's really where we get to shine. So you are going to, again, learn about the mechanics of window magic. We'll talk about some tips for prepping the window. And then there's a great article to read about a legendary visual merchandiser. Yes, they do exist. Right? So she started her career working visual for Bloomingdale's in New York, and ultimately she was the head merchandiser for Bloomingdale's, which is a big deal. It's a big deal. Those New York City windows are literally something to see. When I lived in New Jersey and worked in Manhattan, Easter was a beautiful time to walk into the stores because it was just like a garden of flowers. And of course we've heard about some of the legendary Christmas windows that exist. So we'll talk about that. And then you also learn about the different types of window displays. Really for us here in California, we're very mall centered, right? So we just have a handful of locations that are shopping districts that are street center, which kind of Victoria Gardens has that feel, but it doesn't at the same time. I'm talking places like Pasadena, downtown Pasadena, and of course Rodeo Drive, and in many instances, 3rd Street Promenade, even though that's kind of a mall-based 3rd Street Promenade in Santa Monica. But we'll talk about the different types of windows that there are too. Okay, and then we're gonna finish up with the interior. We'll talk about store interiors, right? So again, the outside sucks you in, and then what happens on the inside is just as important as well. Okay, so that's what we're gonna be talking about. We'll be talking a little bit about fixtures and displays and color. We already talked about lighting. We'll go more into lighting and flooring, all that good stuff. Okay, so that's what we're going to be talking about this week. Okay, the other thing, you have a discussion board. There's actually an article in the lecture that is the basis of our discussion board. So go read the lecture and then you'll know where the article is that you're going to be doing your discussion board. And you have a critical thinking activity. So I'm going to give you something to dissect and put back together. Okay, that's actually, I'm giving you more time on that. It's actually not going to be due this Saturday. I'm going to give you a little bit more time on that because after I start playing around with it, I'm just like, I need more time on this. Okay, all right, so that's what I have for you this week. Same scenario. You just watched this video. Hopefully you read the textbook. Review the lectures. There's some videos in the lectures as well. Do the discussion board, critical thinking activity. Watch the recap. You're done. Okay, see ya.